I think Tampa will take both games in Tampa to start the series, and then Montreal will win 2 games in Montreal. But then Tampa will win the next one, and then Montreal will win the last 2. I think Montreal will do the same thing the Bruins did. They'll lose all their games on the road until the last one, the one that matters, happens, and they'll take home the cup. What are your predictions?
Suns have the best backcourt duo.
Yeah, so we've already talked about Burrow a lot, especially how he's influenced the Bengals organization to do some questionable things.
A great job from the Islanders to rebound off that and force a Game 7 with Bellavide's game-winning goal in overtime in Game 6.
We don't talk about the 2010s because the 2010s had the Astros, and if the Astros didn't happen, the Yankees would have won in 2017 over the Dodgers.
I'm going to say it's during the Week 17 game after the Cowboys have clinched the division, so we just put Bendinucci in.
Vegas was really outplayed the last 3 games of this series, and they did not seem like they wanted it as much as Montreal did.
And then the Oilers versus the Jets. Jets haven't been playing well. Oilers, you got a great offense with Connor McDavid. So I have them sweeping them.
Yeah, well, I don't think you heard my point. The San Francisco Giants have 3 more in the 2010s than the Rangers have in their entire history. So, yeah.
It's hard to get back and to get back-to-back wins. And I don't see the Lightning doing it here, so I have them losing to the Hurricanes in 6.
DeAndre Ayton, I think, will step up in this series and shut down Jokic enough for this to work out for them.
He was close to Frank Reich, and they want Frank Reich back, so that's what they got. It's their discount Frank Reich in Eagles' eyes.
Kaprizov and the rest of this crew, Jordan Greenway, who doesn't get enough props, he definitely is somebody who needs to be mentioned more.
What would you have said if I bet you $100 at the end of the round robin and start of the playoffs that the Stars would be in the Stanley Cup Playoffs or Stanley Cup Finals?
Hi, this is Julie Dobbs. You're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. We're going to review the first round of the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. We'll start with the West as the Avalanche swept the Predators. I was pretty surprised that the Predators just didn't get one game, but maybe it's because Saros was out for the whole series. Or did he come in Game 4?
I'll check.
But outside of that, this is the second consecutive sweep in the first round from the Avalanche? Because didn't they sweep the Blues last season?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what were your thoughts?
Oh yeah, UC Saros didn't play, so yeah, that was definitely a big reason why they were knocked out. I was impressed that they even got one game to overtime. Without their starting goaltender is going to be tough, and I'm not necessarily surprised by the result.
Yeah, I think we can move on now to the Blues versus Wild. I thought the Wild were going to win, but the Blues beat the Wild in 6. What did you think?
Yeah, the Wild really couldn't get it going 100%, and the Blues took advantage. They obviously have a lot of experience, as a lot of players on their team were on the team that won the championship in 2019, so the Wild still are a young team, and they'll look to move forward, but they're going to have to try to keep Fleury, and if not, they're going to have to roll with Talbot, who they obviously started in Game 6 when they lost.
Yeah. Do you have any qualms with starting Talbot over Fleury? Because I know that was a main talking point for other people.
I don't know, because Fleury's obviously won 3 championships, and I think that while he wasn't having the best series of his life, he definitely wasn't playing poorly. It's a tough look whenever you take out a goalie and then you proceed to lose the next game. Fleury didn't play bad. He had a .906 save percentage, and there were a lot of shots on net during those 5 games. So it was definitely going to be tough no matter what. the Blues attempted basically 32 shots per game on him throughout the 5 games they played. But it's not all on Fleury. But there is part of it that is. I'm 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 glad they tried to switch it up to try to go somewhere new with Talbot, but obviously Talbot didn't perform perfectly, or they would have won the game. And while you don't need to perform perfectly to win every game, he only played. He had an 846 save percentage in his game, and that really did doom them.
Yeah, I probably would have started Flurry, even though, like you said, he didn't have great um, series. It's just because of like what Flurry has done in the past in the playoffs against versus Talbot, but it's easier to criticize them now since they lost. But if they'd won with Talbot, we're like, hey, that was the right decision. But or it didn't really affect you then. Um, but I think for the Wild's future, I'm not sure. I think they should try to keep Fleury. It's up to Fleury, but I know um, the cap hits for Suter and why am I forgetting the other
Parise,
person? What
Parise.
Parise? Didn't they defer the cap hits to this upcoming season when they cut them? So now they have less cap room.
I think that's what happened. I don't fully remember though.
Okay, that's so it will be tougher to sign some players because I think there are some things they still need to work on. But it would be interesting to see what they do with the cap. Maybe the cap goes up, so then they aren't as limited. I just know there was a flat cap last year, or the cap didn't go as high as people expected. So I think we can move on though to the Kings versus Edmonton. The Kings put up a great fight. Edmonton just finally got past the first round with Connor McDavid having 6 multi-scoring, multi-point games in a row.
No, not in a row because Jonathan
Okay.
Quick had a shutout in the middle of
Okay.
it. But there was 6 in the series, and Jonathan Quick played well. They just couldn't get enough defensive scoring in the last game. It was a close series. Obviously, every Game 7 series is really close, and I was impressed by how much the Kings pushed the Oilers, but the Kings needed to win. Obviously, Game 7 that was their best chance. Or also, Game 6 was also a really good chance at home. They went down 0-2 and then tied it 2-2. They were tied 2-2 going into really into the third because 29 seconds into the third they tied the game, and that's really when they needed to take advantage. But they couldn't do it, and Tyson Berry scored 14:50 into the period, and then obviously an empty netter was there, but that was their best chance, and it was a really close series.
Yeah, and this year was kind of people didn't expect. I didn't expect the Kings to play this well and make the playoffs, and then force Edmonton to a Game 7, or go to have a 7-game series against Edmonton in the playoffs and have a chance to win it because we all thought they were going to jump next year, but they kind of made it early, and now we'll see what they do in free agency and in the draft, and because they have a lot more players coming up through their system. So I think we can move on to Calgary versus the Stars. The Flames just had a great offense, and I think the Stars were able to go this far mostly because of the play from Jake Onger. Their offense just struggled throughout the whole series. I know Jamie Benn got a goal, but Sagan didn't really play well. Radulov, but it was Onger with his performance in Game 7. It was just incredible in overtime. He just let one go past him, but while he faced 67 shots, he blocked 64 of them. That's, I think, going beyond of what the Stars could have asked for, because their offense just really didn't help. As I think the Stars only had like 20 shots.
No, it was up to probably 30 whenever
Okay.
uh, the game ended. But yeah, I was thoroughly impressed by Ottinger's performance, and it really was the Stars' lack of scoring that got it done. They struggled mightily, and I was impressed by the defense of Calgary. But the Dallas is a defensive team, and it doesn't necessarily surprise me they didn't score much. It really was the issue that there was 4 players who had 6 or more points this series. I mean 5 or more, 5 or more points. Of those players, it was the top line of Calgary, Gaudreau, Kachuk, and Lindholm, and then the only other one was Joe Pavelski. So Joe Pavelski was probably their best player during the regular season, him or Jason Robertson, and he definitely was their best player who wasn't a goalie during the series. And the fact that you're getting that out of a 37-year-old really should be infuriating because you're not going to be able to have that forever. And Hayskin obviously played well. The defense for Dallas obviously uh, is really their mainstay. While Klingberg didn't have the best series, Suter had a good series, and obviously, like I mentioned, Heiskanen. So they're just going to have to try to find more scoring. And I don't think they should really change it up too much because obviously they were able to hold one of the best offensive teams to not that many goals. And they lost their only overtime game of the series. They just needed one bounce, and they were that close to moving on to the next round. So while it is a disappointing loss, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I agree. The big question for me is what happens with Klingberg because he's a free agent this year, and how do they make the money work? Because they have a lot of money tied up in Ben, Sagan, and Radulov. So where do they find the money to pay Klingberg, and does Klingberg want to stay? So I think that's one main thing. But it was good on Calgary getting past the first round and just finding a way to score. But now we can move on to the East. The Panthers beat the Capitals in 6 games. Um, Not really surprising for me, as the Panthers just had an incredible um, season, and they were able to finally get a first round series since 1996.
Yes.
Okay, what do you think?
Um, it was a great series. The Capitals started off hot and were up 2-1 the series, but the Panthers won the next 3, and that was really it. The offense for the Panthers is deadly, and that's what did the Capitals in. And even though they had a great start, the goaltending for the Capitals, which has been an issue for a while now, uh, really could not help them through.
Yeah, so now I think we can move on to the Maple Leafs versus Lightning. The Maple Leafs were up 3-2, and then they lost to the Lightning in game 7. Were you worried at all when the Maple Leafs were up 3-2 against the Lightning?
No, it's the Maple Leafs.
I had that same reaction. I'm like, they could, but will they? No, and they did.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, they just really struggled, and they were not that good, and that's all I can really say. They struggle when the times at their brightest, and it was a great effort by them, and they played well when uh to get it to a game 7, and even in game 7 they had some good moments, but they never really could gain an advantage, even though they were at home. First team in major sports, U.S. major sports, to lose a winner take all game 5 straight years. Uh, so that's a game 7, except for 1920, which was a game 5 of qualifying round. And that was all in the first round. So that's a stat. 5 straight winner take all in the first round for MLB, NFL, not NFL, MLB, NBA, or obviously NHL. So they struggled when it matters the most, and that's something that we've noticed for years at this point.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they do in the off season. Like, do they blow it up or do they try to add one more piece? Because it hasn't worked so far. So, Lightning, though, Vasilevsky is incredible. Braden Point did get injured, and I know his status was up in the air if he's if we'll see him in the second round. But we can talk about that more when we get to the second round. Now we'll go to Carolina versus the Bruins. Carolina won in 7 games.
It was an amazing series, and the Bruins almost tied it at the very end of the game. As I was watching, I was worried they wouldn't, even though I was at my sister's graduation. I kept on checking my phone, and unfortunately, they didn't pull it through. But it was a great series, and this was the number one team in the East for a while. Them and the Panthers were going in and out, and then obviously the Rangers uh, couldn't catch up to them, but the Panthers got more points at the end. But for a team that was seventh in the East was so good this year. All these teams deserved to make it, and they did.
Yeah.
And it was a great series.
How did you feel about Taylor Hall's um, performance in the games?
He performed well at some points, and other times he struggled on defense. But I like Taylor Hall. I'm glad he's on the team. He's obviously not his heart self anymore, but that's not the worst thing in the world. He's only 30, I believe, and he had 4 points through the 7 games, so I'm not all that sad about it. The issue is I don't know what's going to happen with Bergeron, who had a outstanding season for his age. He had 7 points in 7 games. Marchand had 11 points through 7 games. Pastrnak had 6. Charlie Coyle had 6. It's just a secondary scoring for the Bruins is just lacking, and every team in this series won at home and lost away. So that's when home ice advantage matters. And I don't think Boston's all that much worse than Carolina. It's just home ice advantage was something that neither team could overcome. And when one team has a better record during the regular season, that's all that matters.
Yeah, just all the games I watched, I didn't see any. I didn't see all the games. It was just when I was watching, Taylor Hall would get called for a penalty or turn over the puck. So I was curious on what you felt, on how you felt on his performance. But now we can go to the Rangers versus Penguins. The Rangers pull it out in overtime in Game 7 to advance.
Yeah, and there was some questionable calls. Alexi Lafreniere pulls off the helmet of a Pittsburgh player, and then he has to come off the ice. And then right there, the Rangers score to tie it, and then overtime, the Rangers win. There's obviously the high check into Crosby's head from T.J. Brody. There was a lot, or no, Jacob Trouba, not Brody, Jacob Trouba. But there was a lot of questionable things that happened. It was a hard hitting series, and I think Pittsburgh is the better team here, but obviously they lost, and it was mainly because Tristan Jarry, their starting goalie, was out basically the entire series besides game one. So that happening and Crosby being out for a significant portion of the series definitely cost them, but the Rangers move on nonetheless.
Yeah, and I feel Shesterkin played really well for the Rangers, and they just need him to play well if they want to advance in the second round. But I think we can move on to the second round. We'll start with the West. We have the Avalanche versus Blues, a rematch from last year's playoffs when the Avalanche swept the Blues. I don't think that will happen, but I still think the Avalanche will get over the hump and finally get to the Stanley Cup semifinals. So, what do you think about this series?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Avalanche moved to the conference finals. I obviously had them playing against the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup finals, so I I'm holding fast to my prediction. I definitely think that's going to happen.
Yeah, my matchups are basically messed up now because the Wild got knocked out, and I had them winning the whole thing. So, not the best moment. But now we'll go to Edmonton versus Calgary, the battle for Alberta. It's been 31 years since. Calgary, I think they have an offense, and I think they would have played better if they just didn't face Ottinger and just the brick wall he was during that series. So Edmonton, you do have McDavid. I'm not sure if McDavid's gonna. I'm not sure if people are gonna if people are gonna other players are gonna support Draisaitl and McDavid to help them get over the hump over the Calgary Flames. What do you think?
Yeah, this is going to be a very high scoring series, and Jacob Markstrom's a better goalie in my opinion than Mike Smith, even though Mike Smith is underrated. It's all going to be down to defense. I picked the Kings and the Stars to both win those series, mainly because I thought that the goaltending would favor those teams, and obviously for the Stars it did, but they lost. And I would say for the Kings it did at times, and they lost. But the Oilers aren't known for defense, and the Stars did what they were supposed to do on the defensive side. It was their offense that didn't come through. And for the Oilers, even though they have a great offense, Calgary's such a good team and has so many scoring options that you have to have a good defense. And so I'm going to take the Flames here. I think the Flames are a better team and they have a better defense, and that's really what you need in a offensive battle is who has the better defense.
Yeah, I'm also going to pick the Flames. Now we'll go to the East, and we'll start with Carolina versus the Rangers. What do you think?
I feel like the Rangers got bailed out by a number of injuries on the Penguins side, so I'm definitely taking Carolina here. Also, Carolina, I feel like faced a tougher opponent because Boston was healthy mostly, and both those series went 7, but obviously both of them won because they're here and they're in the same division. They've had a lot of close matchups. I just think Carolina's a better team.
Yeah, I agree. I have Carolina going as well. Now we go to the Panthers versus the Lightning, a rematch, I believe, from last year's playoffs as well.
Yep,
And that's when who made the comment about the LTIR? Wasn't there a Panthers, or was that a different team?
I can't remember.
Okay, but it seems there haven't been any LTIR shenanigans yet with the Lightning. But I had Panthers versus Lightning, and I'm going to stick with my previous prediction. That's the Panthers beating the Lightning, even though it's going to be really tough given Vasilevsky. But I do think Point being out, it will be interesting to see how the Lightning bounce back, how the Lightning deal with with however many games he loses. But the Lightning do have players, and they just have players that come out of nowhere, like Phelps. Is it Phelps? Um, Ben,
For
the Lightning, the guy that scored two
oh,
goals.
the in the last game,
Yeah.
yeah, that was Nick Paul.
Oh, Nick Paul. Okay, so I was totally wrong. Nick Paul. I thought it was Ben something. So I totally goofed that up. But they got Nick Paul from the Ottawa Senators in a trade deadline deal, and he just came through. So what other players have they picked up that can just contribute for them? What do you think?
Yeah, and I really like the addition of Corey Perry. I know it's already happened a long time ago, but Corey Perry's been to the last 2 Stanley Cup uh, finals and lost both of them, 1-6 with the Stars and 1-5 with the Montreal Canadiens. I was truly impressed, and I do believe that they will have a great chance of winning this series. I'm obviously going Lightning because I have them winning the championship, and I don't necessarily want to change my prediction now after everything staying right. And not everything, not every prediction went right, but as long as my 2 Stanley Cup Finals predictions, the 2 teams I have in the finals stay true, then I'll have the best chance of winning the competition. So I'm happy.
Yeah, we'll see who wins competition and who wins the series. So we'll keep y'all updated with that. Make sure to check out other videos from Outsiders Opinions.